Hello everyone, welcome once again to the long-forgotten and/or highly anticipated comic book vault. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric. I assume I am the long-forgotten and you are the ever-anticipated?
No, I'm actually talking more about this book,
Oh.
which took forever to come out. And now let me ask you this. Was this late, or was it slated to take this long?
No, it was slated to take this long. When the first book came out, they said the next book would be out in 2 years, and it's out in 2 years. Batman was late, this one was on time.
And that's why Batman and this came out so close to each other, and shouldn't have.
Well, they were actually both supposed to come out that first year. And then Batman was going to come out the year after it, and now it came out this year. I still don't like that they're treating these books like movies.
I don't like that either. Yeah.
I think they should come out once a year. And I don't know if I said this on Batman, but what'd you say? Earth 1 books are about maybe like 4 issues in length.
Yeah, I think so.
And the artists on these books are probably the artists that can't hit a monthly schedule. If you can't put out 4 issues worth of content in a year, you have no business drawing comics. You're just a cover guy. Sorry.
Do you think even with the level of artwork we're getting that's true? Because I mean, it is obviously, you know, art that would take longer to make.
Well, with this one, I don't know as much with the Gary Frank. Like, I liked Gary Frank. Like, this looks really, really good. Like, Gary Frank looks good, but not like these books. I'd be willing to give this book a little bit more slack because it almost feels like every panel is like hand painted, but
yeah, every panel.
Yeah, and like no panel looks worse than another panel. Like it all looks fantastic. So
sure, he didn't skimp out anywhere.
I mean, I give him a little bit of slack, but at the same time, you can't get 4 issues out in a year. Like that seems really bad to me.
My biggest complaint about this book is that by the time it came out, I was not excited about it anymore. And so, I mean, like, you know, I was happy to buy it, and I mean, you know, I wanted to read it, but it didn't feel relevant anymore. Like, Superman Earth 1 was such a big deal. I had such a reaction to it and loved it so much. And I know that I have this a little bit different from you, Eric, where I felt like that book was kind of a standalone thing. I didn't need more in this universe. And so by the time I got more in this universe, I had to kind of reset myself and go, oh yeah, Earth 1, okay. And I read this through once and talked about it on New Acquisitions and said, it's okay, it's not as good as the first one. I didn't...
When I talked to you about it, you were like, it's not very good. Because you read it before I did.
Yeah, and I didn't think it was bad. I just couldn't get excited about it. I thought it was kind of just sort of there. And then I went ahead and went back and reread it for this because my instincts told me that it was better than I thought it was.
Well, that might have been me telling you that it was better than you thought it was.
Well, that may have had something to do with it, because I was surprised that you liked it so much, but when I read it, I was surprised that I didn't care for it.
Well, thanks for giving away my opinion on this book. I have yet to even get into it.
But I thought, but I just, you know, I read it through and I thought, I wonder if this reads better with the other one. And so today I sat down and read them together, cover to cover. And if you didn't care for this the first time, I would suggest go back and reread Volume 1 and then read this straight away and see if you have the same opinion. Because I didn't. It changed my mind.
How many times would you say you've read Earth 1? Like, did you just read it the one time and then like kind of put it down and never picked it up again?
Right. Mm-hmm.
See, I've read it a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, I think. And I've lent it out, so whether I just reread it or not, I've had discussions about it probably more than you have.
Yeah, so I just wasn't super familiar with it.
Yeah, whereas I remembered it pretty well because I've...
And the big thing I remembered was I thought it was a really good retelling of the origin, and it felt fresh, and it felt, you know, like it was worth doing it again, considering how many Superman origins we have. The first thing I want to talk about is I think that the smartest thing Straczynski did with this was just starting directly after the events of the first one. I mean, it feels like just a direct extension of the last book.
It feels like he's still building Superman. It's not like we got the origin... and then he's Superman. And you get that sometimes, where like you get the early days and it just cuts to him being Superman. This is still that early formative becoming Superman.
he's still got stuff to figure out, and he's still got to decide exactly what kind of superhero he's going to be. And I think ultimately that's what this is all about. Is he's wrestling with taking care of the really big, all-encompassing, earth-killing kinds of threats, like Parasite here, and like the, destroy Krypton everything guy in the first book, and then also, how does he reconcile dealing with all of that? But then also there's these smaller threats that he feels like he has the ability to deal with, but he doesn't know if he can, he doesn't know if he should, and these kind of smaller human things, and that's really the biggest thing I took from it, was kind of Superman trying not to lose perspective on the smaller problems around him.
Well, I thought all of the character stuff with Superman was absolutely fantastic. I thought just the idea of kind of him as a person thinking about, well, as Superman, I can fix all of this stuff and I can save all this stuff, but because he's so disconnected from people, he does miss little things. I thought that was a great way to take the character.
The guy who kills himself at the end, who's the guy who's addicted to heroin, feels really tragic, and I didn't care for it as much the first time I read this, because I felt like he kind of disappears and I forgot about him. And rereading it, I realized that he's brought up at the beginning. And then there's another scene where we see him a little bit later, and I didn't notice this originally, where Superman actually uses his X-ray vision on him and sees that he's got
heroin.
that he's got heroin on his person. And
it's in his veins.
If I noticed,
doesn't look in his
and he sees his vein too. Yeah, both in the same panel. And he sees the syringe and that, and I was like, oh, okay. And again, if I noticed that the first time, it probably would have impacted me more at the end.
I'm of two minds on it.
That was great.
I think it would have been more impactful for the audience if this had happened like in the third book, like they'd introduced him and then killed him. But I think it works thematically, because the whole kind of theme of this book for Superman is that as Superman, he can deal with the big problems, but he misses the little ones. And he just goes and solves two big things. And he comes back, and he missed this. He talked to the guy, and he just missed it. I think the 7-esque apartment was a little much. Maybe if it had just said, on the wall, like, Superman can save everybody, why can't he save me? I felt like all of that writing was way too much. I thought the way his apartment looked, I took it wrong. Or the first time I read it, I took it as, I was like, oh, he was crazy and he wanted to kill Superman. And then I started reading what it said, and I was like, oh.
Well, yeah, because instinctively, I mean, you're programmed anytime you see all that writing on a wall like that to think, oh, he's a serial killer. Because that's what we're used to seeing whenever you see that, yeah.
I would have just made it like one thing written on the wall, but I really like that. I love the exploration of Clark's sex life. I think
second time around.
Yeah, you didn't like it the first time.
I had a hard time initially buying that was the kind of person that Clark would associate with.
Well, see, and my thing was, I don't think it's the kind of person Clark would end up with, but I think like we would have a long conversation about the hooking, but like she's totally the kind of girl that like I would maybe date type of thing. Like she just seems like this really cool person. And I could see where Clark would, like, there's this really cool girl who's really forward, and he's never had sex. Like regardless of whether this is the kind of person he should end up with, as an early 20-something dude, I think it's totally plausible that he would at least consider it.
Yeah, well, and what makes it tough for him, and the reason that I kind of dug it this time is I think that he dealt with some things that Smallville tried to deal with, and dealt with it quite a bit better. The whole notion of Clark is afraid that if he sleeps with a girl, yeah, and I like that line that if he slept with a girl, he might not be able to curb his impulses, and he might accidentally kill her because he's so strong, or because he's got heat vision, or whatever it was,
right.
And so he's thinking about that, and they have this nice flashback where he had a talk with where his father made him sit down and have a talk about that, and then he's got this girl that's all over him. and she's very attractive. And even if she's not the kind of person that he would generally associate with, she is very kind to him, and obviously likes him for more than just his body. I mean, she does kind of lunge herself at him, but she also seems to appreciate his kind of old worldliness.
Yeah.
And so reading this again a second time, I felt like there was a good kind of dynamic there, and a good balance between she's really overly sexual, not overly sexualized. She's a damaged person,
yeah.
And part of the way that she deals with that is that she makes herself, an overly sexual person. So I also thought that maybe part of the deal with Clark was that he was picking up on some of that and felt like maybe this was a person. And the book never comes out and says this, so perhaps I'm reaching.
Well, and
maybe he felt like that's okay. I felt like maybe it seemed to him like this was a person that needs a friend as much as somebody that needs sex, and maybe that was part of why he was sticking around.
I really like the ambiguity at the end where they decide to be friends. Like, it's kind of left that maybe possibly they could date, but it's not stated one way or the other.
I didn't get that sense at all. I really got the sense that they would just be friends now because she has done prostitution before, and he's so, small town conservative, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you really got the sense, because at first she assumed that he just wouldn't even want to associate with her anymore, and his perspective was, well, that's awful, but I understand, and no, we should still be friends,
Well, actually going with her, being a prostitute sometimes, there's some lines in this book that Superman has that don't feel like Superman to me. And I don't know if that's he's a younger Superman, or if that's just what this Superman's going to be. It never crosses. What? It never crosses the line to being Spider-Man. But when he grabs the guy that's beating her, and he takes her to that Arctic place, he's like, "This is either Antarctica or Siberia." I when I'm flying really fast, I can never remember. So have fun being in Antarctica or Siberia. I can't remember which. I thought
I'm with you. That seemed like a very awkward line for Superman.
But I felt like it fit this version of Superman, at least as a young guy. I don't know if I'll buy it if this book keeps going and he ends up being 30 and he talks like that. But I could kind of see that as being a 20-something now as a superhero. I could kind of seeing them be that kind of smartass, especially since he kind of has that Peter Parker syndrome of he's so reserved and he's such a smart guy that it just kind of seeps through the cracks when he's Superman. I don't think it ever crossed the line into being Spider-Man-y, but I think there's a risk of that happening.
Everything I really enjoyed about this book, and I still don't think that it's as good as Volume 1, but everything that I really enjoyed about this book was thematic. I do think that there are a couple of disappointing things story-wise, and one of them is the idea of Lois Lane already picking up on there's something weird about Clark and about how he's trying not to be noticed, and she does background research on him and figures out that he always got nothing but straight C's in school and never wavered from that, and that's unusual. And I was really enjoying that, and it never paid off for me. I didn't really like how she just drops it at the end.
I lent this book to a friend of mine, and his the first thing he came back to me with is that Lois Lane is too smart. He was like, you can't have Lois Lane be that smart, and
she'll figure it out too fast.
But what I liked was that she did that and she dropped it, but he doesn't know she dropped it. The last time you see Clark is he sees his name in the file box and he gets that phone call. So I get the feeling that that's immediately going to be addressed next volume.
Oh, that's a great point. Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say. So I kind of get the impression that it didn't really have an ending in this volume, but it was kind of setting up next volume. I was really impressed just with the fact that he didn't immediately jump into Clark and Lois, given that, in the last volume they have that newspaper article, and he says he's got his eye on someone, and you're like, oh, well, he's going to go after Lois. And that's not even touched on in this. I was really impressed by that he didn't immediately go to that. And I was really kind of shocked that she's kind of dating / hanging out with Jimmy.
Now, is that who that is?
I think it's him. He looks the same. He's got the same hair.
Here's the thing. That's what I thought the first time I read it. This time around, I checked the two panels, and I think that he is drawn too close to Jimmy. That's not Jimmy.
I had the same problem when Superman comes in and there's the guy beating what is her name Lisa? I think it's Lisa. It's an LL name.
Yeah, Lisa. You know what? By the way, I didn't like that either.
I've heard people say that. I thought it was kind of cute that every girl that Superman gets involved with is LL.
I guess it's cute. I don't know. I thought it was a little bit gimmicky.
It's set in his character, Lana Lang, Lois Lane. When he comes in and that guy's beating her, he looks just like the Junkie. And so I had to put it back.
I thought that was the Junkie too.
They look almost exactly the same, except one of them has brown hair and one of them has blonde hair.
So I thought that Shane Davis just has like this one style of drawing people, or?
Well, no, because it's not that those two guys looked like Jimmy. It's that Jimmy and this guy looked like him, and then the Junkie and this other guy looked like each other. So it's not that he has one style of drawing, it's just that he drew these characters and they look a lot like other characters in the book, because everyone else is very distinct.
And what makes it really problematic, of course, is that the people that he's drawing that look similar work or live in the same place.
Yeah.
So that's really problematic. Parasite didn't do much for me.
That is the biggest problem with this book. When I lent it to said friend, I said, this book is really good, except for the Parasite stuff. I don't get what they were doing with him. Like, they set up this whole serial killer thing, and I don't see how that ever factors into him being a monster. I got the impression that if anybody became this Parasite guy, he would have acted the same. Like, I didn't feel like the serial killer thing, like, was part of his character. I don't know. I didn't feel like he had a distinct enough character and character arc. The thing with his sister was kind of sad. When he hugs his sister, that was sad.
Yeah, that was sad, but overall, it was very Sandman and Spider-Man 3 for me, where it was like, okay, I see why we're supposed to care.
He has the exact same origin.
But, yeah, I mean, I see
he
why
accidentally fumbles into a scientific facility and gets nuked.
But at the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, okay, it's Parasite. It's kind of a reinvention of Parasite, but it's just.
I really like the design.
He feeds on energy. I like the design too. I like that he had two sets of teeth.
Yes, that was cool. My only thing is, well, I like everything else about this book except for the Parasite thing.
I don't even dislike the Parasite stuff so much as I guess I was just expecting something that was, thematically more resonant with everything else that was going on. Because it seemed like he like the villain in the first book. I think JMS is trying really hard, maybe a little too hard, to have a villain that is directly connected to Superman somehow. Where, well, not even connected so much as just, he's not just there to wreak havoc and Superman has to stop him. He needs Superman. So the first villain needs to kill Superman. This villain needs to feed off of Superman. It's a little bit too contrived. It's just we need somebody that is a direct threat to Superman, not just to the city. And that's fine if you.
I got something different from that.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I got that Parasite is here solely so we can have that scene where Superman doesn't have powers, which is a fantastic scene where he's walking and he's like, I never realized how brave you people are because you go out every single day and you're just mortal. Which was
probably the best line he had in the book. I mean, I really liked that. That's kind of what I was alluding to.
I feel like that's the only reason Parasite is here.
Yeah, the villain has to do something to Superman to make it personal for him.
He's
just like the villain did in the first
Superman book. Thematically. He's not there for his own reasons other than to have a fight.
Right.
And the other thing that my friend brought up that I never would have thought of, but Superman immediately goes to his ship and says, "Hey, I need a suit to fight him." That could really easily become bad storytelling.
I didn't like that. I didn't care for that either. Just because I wanted to see, especially after already having a story in this universe, I wanted to see Superman use his intellect and do something kind of clever to stop the villain.
Especially because they establish he's so
he's
smart
a super genius.
Book. I would have liked if he'd gone to his ship and said, "Hey, I need these materials. I'm going to make something."
You already want more than just brute force for Superman or just jump to Kryptonian technology because you have it on hand. But with this guy, you're right. You want it even more because JMS is playing up so much that he's got that super intellect, which I love that he brought that back. I mean, I really like that. It's cool. And one of the things I love about the first book, which of course comes into this a lot, with him, learning a lot from Perry White about how to, be an effective journalist. The idea that he could do anything he wanted and he could be totally rich, and he's working at this paper just because the people that work there mean something to him.
Yeah.
And that he looks up to them. And I think that was carried over really well here.
I thought the whole Parasite thing, as like a character, I thought he was weak. On the other hand, I thought the other conflict with the dictator, I thought that was phenomenal. I thought that was a brilliant continuation of the ideas from the first book.
Totally was.
I loved when he goes there the first time and the guy just says, he just like drops like an arm and he's like, I'm gonna get another one of these every single minute you're still here. And I loved how that shows how Superman can be kind of strong-handed or strong-armed by, just a guy. And then I think the best line in the entire book is when he goes back the second time and he says, do you hear those gunshots? Those are the votes being cast for and against you.
Yeah, it's election day.
I thought that was great. That's very, very JMS. He writes like that, and that's why I love JMS. I love that kind of stuff.
Now that I'm looking at this cover, I really like this because the cover is actually the weird dream sequence that everyone freaks out about when they flip to it. When you first look at it, because it looks like Superman's just frying people alive, and he's actually just daydreaming about that, where it's like, wouldn't it be so much easier if I just fried everyone I didn't agree with, and everyone that and more importantly, everyone that stands in my way of actually helping people, like that dictator. And I think that's the other big thematic idea of the book is dealing with, it's not as simple as it was in the 30s, where Superman can just fly around and save people.
They
because
continue
you've got countries that don't want him there.
On Superman.
Yeah, which is great, because that was one of the things that I ranted and raved about the first book was all of those people that had varying opinions about Superman when he first shows up.
In this book, and it does lead to my least favorite scene in the whole book. I think it's one panel where it's that talk show, and the one guy goes, well, maybe he's just trying to help people because he thinks that's what's best, and they all laugh. I was like, that's too heavy-handed. No.
Yeah. But I think that, because the thing is, again, at first I didn't really love that commentary, just because I feel like that's kind of the sort of commentary that's also going on in New 52 right now. And then I went back and reread book 1 and felt like it was necessary here, because
he was doing it first.
A Superman. Well, here's the thing. Not just that, but we don't have a Superman that just shows up to save people from a crisis. He shows up to save people from a crisis that wouldn't have happened if he wasn't there.
And everyone knows that. He made it
and
very
everybody
clear.
knows that. Yeah. The villain in that telegraphs it. And everybody here's the other thing, too, that makes this universe very different, is that everybody knows about Superman before they ever see him. And that's something that we've never had before. Because they're waiting for him, they're waiting for the guy that this alien is looking for to reveal himself so that he won't kill everyone. And so when he finally does, it's like, okay, thanks a lot, Superman, for saving us from this alien force, but if you weren't here in the first place, that never would have happened. So people have every reason to distrust him, and it's not just because he has superpowers. Because even if he is, benevolent and true and means everything he says and does, he could be a liability just for being from another planet, because that's the first impression, and first impressions mean everything.
Well, and the thing that I think really separates it from 52 and here he's an early Superman. Like, it makes sense that they would be distrustful of him. In 52, he's been there for 5 years, and there's a bunch of other superheroes. Why are you immediately distrustful of just this guy? Here, he's
I think more of that
like
distrust stuff. And to be fair, I think with 52, and I haven't read a lot of the actual Superman titles since the first couple issues, but I think that in 52, more of that commentary actually is also with early Superman, with the stuff that Morrison was doing.
Yeah. But I think
So
I heard
I'm
that
just
there's a
saying.
new storyline coming out set in the present New 52 where everybody's against Superman. And I'm like, that doesn't work when he's been there for like it shouldn't work when he's been there for 5 years. He's Superman. But
Yeah,
here
I feel
doing
like
it so
JMS
early
makes a
on,
really
it
good.
really works.
Yeah, I feel like he makes a really good case for doing that kind of story here, and I love that Superman is just trying really hard to make everybody believe in him, and everybody has every reason to. And that leads us to what I think is the coolest idea, which is Lex squared. My goodness, that's cool.
Okay. First of all, it got me because
Yeah,
they
it got me
introduce her
too.
as Alexandra Luthor. And I was like, oh, Lex is a girl in this. And her husband, Lex Luthor. And I was like, that's fantastic. Lex found someone with the exact same name as him. And I
So
love
great.
this
And
Lex. He's
the
such a
girl-
good guy.
And yeah, he's a great guy. The girl is characterized more as classic comic book mad scientist Lex Luthor.
But what's great about it is that
her
while it's-
husband is like, well, why would we want to kill Superman? And she's like, well, it's not that I want to kill Superman. I just think that
Wanna know
I just
how
want
to
to see
do
how
it."
to do it. Yeah,
The thing that I love is that neither of them are immediately bad. Lex is much more he just seems like a really cool guy. Like when she's like, I'm trying to figure out how to kill Superman, he's just like, why would you do that? And she's not evil either. She's just a scientist. It's that coulda not shoulda thing.
yeah, right. And then, of course, the government wants them to find a way to kill Superman because they think that they need to in case it ever comes up.
My prediction is that she's gonna die and he's gonna become evil Lex Luthor. And somehow it's gonna be Superman's fault. But I love the idea of starting Lex as a good guy and not as Clark's friend. I've never seen that done before. Anytime he starts as a good guy, he's friends with Clark. And I really like the idea that Lex is just he's an alright guy. It makes me really interested to see where they're gonna go with. And I love the Lex squared joke. I thought it was really funny.
Well, and it also makes me laugh because in the '90s you had all that stuff with like Lex had a son that was a clone but wasn't
But it
really
was
a clone,
actually
turned out to
him.
actually be him. Yeah, and so
Which is what
it's
this
kind
makes
of
me
fun to
think of
play
with
with
the
that.
hair.
Yeah, that's what made me think. That's what I thought of too. And of course, he's got to have red hair.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love that introduction.
And yeah, and so I'm excited about a third volume now, and I think even if we don't get it for another couple of years, I'll still be excited about it just because I have to know what they're doing with them. That's fun.
Yeah, no, I'm super psyched for the next volume. I liked this one. I want to say I liked it as much as the first one. I don't know if I liked it exactly as much, but it's in the same, realm. It's on the same level as the first one, even if it's not immediately as good. And I feel like it set up a lot of stuff that I'm really interested to see how it turns out. I'm really interested to see where they go with the Lex stuff. I'm really interested to see what happens with Lois. I'm excited for another volume, and I really wish they would just put these out yearly as opposed to every 2 years.
Yeah, me too. That's my biggest complaint right now is just they're not coming out often enough for me to keep my excitement level up about them.
Because I love JMS, and I really, really liked that first volume. So when this came out, I was excited, and I kind of got the impression that like everyone else was just like, oh yeah, that's right, that book came out.
Yep.
And I was kind of bummed by that. I'm like, no, it's Superman Earth 1 Volume 2. Like, you remember how good that first one was? And I, as a side commentary just on these books, I lent the first one to a guy at work who hates Superman, and he came back to me and said, if this was regular Superman, I would be reading this. I'd lent my friends the first volume probably around the time it came out, and then when this one came out, I lent it to them. And one of my friends came back and said, this is the longest I've ever cared about Superman. Like, he's doing it right and in a way that I care about the character. And I think that's really what works for me, is that he's doing it on such a human level. I feel like a lot of things here are ideas that people have touched on before, but I don't feel like have ever been done this in depth. Like, John Byrne pioneered the idea of Clark is the real guy and Superman's kind of who he puts on. But I feel like this is the first time I really feel like someone is doing that 100% right.
Yeah.
Where Clark is the main character. It's not Superman that's the main character. It is Clark.
Well, and the idea that the glasses are the mask, and so, like, Superman is more what he really is, even though he's not, calling himself what his real name is, Clark. He's not like Batman, where Batman in his head calls himself Batman. But Superman, Clark Kent is actually Superman, and then the guy who calls himself Clark Kent is something else.
And I don't get the impression that JMS is doing the thing where, like, this is all just so that he can get to the full-on Superman story. Like, at least from the first 2 volumes, I don't feel like he's going to do that story where Clark just doesn't show up. I feel like this is all about Clark's interactions with people.
Yeah, I don't feel like there's going to be that light switch moment where he becomes the Superman we all know and love. It's not going to be like Bond with Skyfall, where he's Bond now. I feel like he's Superman. He's a little different, but I do feel like he's already Superman.
Well, and what I loved was that Clark brought in that story at the end of the book, and it wasn't like the first book where he brought in the story and it was like this amazing story. Like when he brought in, Perry was just like, this isn't news.
Yeah, this is really well written. You did a great job, but I'm gonna have to put it in the feature section because junkies die all the time.
Yeah.
And it was sad. It was really sad.
Did you read the news articles? I didn't get to read them before I lent the book out, so I actually haven't read them.
I haven't read them either.
I looked and I saw that they mentioned Batman, which kind of says that Earth 1 is one universe. But other than that,
Oh, okay. Well, I should give those a once over then. I didn't actually.
Because I liked the one from the first one. I loved how it was written so not amateurly, but like it felt like somebody. It was really weirdly written because it was written like someone that has potential but isn't a great writer yet. And that's what it was supposed to feel like, and I feel like
it's supposed to be, right?
It's like you go to a writer, you go to a musician, you tell them like, okay, write me something that like somebody that's awful at writing or making music would do. That's easy. Doing something where it feels like they're okay at it, they can get better. That's difficult, and I thought that first one was done really well.
Especially when it's a really good writer. It's almost like, and of course JMS isn't a journalist, but it's almost like JMS would have to go back. Oh, he used to be. Well, that's
he used to be. Yeah, that was part of his thing with this book. It was actually
cool.
Part of the thing with.
Well, he's got a great voice for Perry White. Let me just go on record and say this is like the best Perry White I've ever seen.
Oh, it's a fantastic Perry White. But yeah, JMS talked about that with the first book, particularly with Perry and Jimmy. He talked about, he's like, all of the newspaper photographers I've ever seen will do whatever it takes to get the shot. They will be as crazy as possible. So he brought that in. And Perry White, he said that's kind of how newspaper journalist bosses are. So he used to be a journalist, and so there is some of that coming into, this series.
That's cool, because what I was going to say is it's like JMS would have to go back and remember the days where he wasn't as good of a writer and try to put himself in that again.
Yeah. I think this book is really good. I think it's on the same level as the first book. And I think if it keeps going on this level, it will be my favorite take on Superman.
It's definitely up there for me. I still don't think it's quite as good as the first one. I think it's a little bit weaker, mostly because I liked the villain in the first one and I didn't care for Parasite.
Yeah, Parasite is the weak point for me.
That's really the place where it kind of turns.
But I felt like everything else was so good, it kind of like that's not like a thing for me. Like I was like, Parasite was really weak, but all the characters stuff was so good. I don't care.
Oh, sure. Fair enough. I also, once again, want to just reiterate that it was much better for me on a second read. And again, if you didn't care for it and it's been a year since you read the first one, and you have it already, I would really suggest going back and reading them together, and you might have a different perspective on it.
And if you loved it like I loved it, just read it again.
Well, everybody, thanks a lot for watching and listening to the Comic Book Vault, and thanks a lot for joining me, Eric. Remember that the Comic Book Vault is a vast and wondrous wonderland of comic books that you can donate things to if you'd like to. If you ever want me to read something and you want to either donate or you want to lend me something, just send it to our P.O. Box. That's Geekvolution, P.O. Box 14183, Lenexa, Kansas 66285. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And happy reading.